Am I afraid of my anger, or afraid of what it remembers when I am not looking? I buried it once, so deep I mistook the soil for healing, mistook silence for peace. I told myself I had survived. I told myself that was enough. But survival has a long echo. It learns how to speak in the body, how to pass itself down like a family name no one remembers choosing. Sometimes I feel more than one lifetime walking beside me. Not ghosts exactly, but unfinished sentences. Hands that never got to unclench. Songs that learned how to whisper instead of sing. And then there is you, my child, born into my arms with eyes that seem to ask questions I did not know how to answer when I was young. I watch your anger arise too quickly. Your fear arrive before the danger. Your tenderness hide behind armor you did not design. I want to say, this did not begin with you. I'm saying you are not broken. You are remembering something your body learned before language. I am learning too. How to stay present when the past knocks. How to tell the difference between warning and wound. How not to confuse protection with punishment. I sit with my anger now, not to silence it, but to ask what it has been guarding all this time. Often it says grief. Often it says love that had nowhere to go. This is the work we do, generation by generation. We turn towards what was hidden. We name it without cruelty. We refuse to make children pay for what the world refused to heal. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is remembering without letting the memory rule. Repair is not perfection. It is choosing again with softer hands and clearer sight. I tell you this as I tell myself. We are allowed to build new stories without betraying the old ones. We are allowed to rest without abandoning the ancestors who ran. We are actively human when we pause, when we listen, when we choose love as a discipline, not a feeling that arrives by accident. Come here, my child. Come closer, my younger self. There is room now for all of us to breathe, to forgive, to begin again. This is how resilience learns to speak. This is how love becomes a future.
Can I, will I,
The rebirth of a nation's heart cannot begin without a complete deconstructing and a full assessment made of the poor foundation laid. The poor foundation fraught with lies, supremacy, and greed, and words enshrined on documents intended to deceive. No amendment can erase the past, no bill or law affect, until a deconstructing of the heart is done at last. No mind can contemplate the truth unless the facts are faced. The deluded mind must purge itself and confess its part complete. No freedom will be experienced by one person in this land unless that freedom reigns on all with evenness of hand, and justice stands with balanced scales. Her eyes are as blind as day, with her sword protecting each of us and equality each day. No rebirth of this nation can take place short of a complete reconstruction of the human heart.
Good morning, TOC family.
Good morning.
Movement 4 of the moment before history, the space where choice is born. Join me for a moment of prayer. Spirit of the living universe, help us to remember the path to truth. Let your ways be confirmed in us as we find our way back to the one we are in you. Ashe. This movement is not meant to be a sermon, but a continuation of an internal conversation we have each been having with ourselves and one another throughout our story, history, about what it means to be human. Today, we will talk about choice and agency. Choice is the ability to pick, but agency is knowing you have the right to choose and having the courage to live that choice. Some of us were trained to survive by becoming fast. Fast to defend, fast to explain, fast to disappear, fast to harden. We learned to live in reaction. Reaction is what happens when the world wounds us and then demands we keep functioning as if nothing sacred was harmed. Reaction is the body saying, protect yourself, when the soul is longing to say, become yourself. Reaction is not weakness, it is human reflex. But it is not human destiny. Today, our journey began with movement 1, a poem, Inheritance. A voice reminding us that long before we make our own choices, we are handed stories we did not consciously write, fears we did not choose, silences we did not consent to, griefs that learned our names before we were born. The poem tells the truth gently and fiercely, that trauma travels, that memory lives in the body, that anger sometimes outlives the event that it created it, that love too can be passed down unfinished, waiting for repair. Inheritance names the weight, not to trap us inside it, but to tell the truth about what stands behind us when we say the word I. Then the poem gives way to an aria in movement 2. In the opera She Who Dared by Jasmine Barnes, Rosa Parks does not sing about history. She sings about a moment before history. She sings, when they ask me to stand, will I? When they force me to go, will I go? Can I? Will I? Not speeches, not certainty, questions. A human mind standing in the narrow space between inheritance and decision, between what she was taught to endure and what her soul could no longer carry. That bus was not yet a monument. It was a body, a breath, a pulse, a woman holding generations in her bones, asking herself, will I pass this wound forward, or will it stop with me? And in that invisible space, before the police, before the cameras, before the textbooks, before the movement, a human being made a choice. Not dramatically, not loudly, but inwardly. She chose response over reaction. She chose authorship over reflex. She chose to remain human in a world designed to make her small. In movement 3, we stand before another witness. Not a policy, not a slogan, not an argument. 2 paintings in dialogue. I titled them Deconstruction, You Decide, and Reconstruction, In Love We Trust. Those titles are already sermons because the canvas does not shout. It does not demand. It does not threaten. It waits. Like the space between a wound and a word. Like the silence between fear and courage. Like the breath we take before we become accountable. To be actively human is to recognize that this space is real between what we inherit and what we repeat, between what happens to us and what we do next. There is a space, not a pause of weakness, but a chamber of authorship. A place where instinct loosens its grip, where old scripts soften, where the nervous system exhales, where the soul is finally allowed to speak in its own voice. That is the space our paintings name. That is the space where choice is born. And in that space, we are not powerless. In that space, we choose. Some of us learn to survive by becoming impressive. Some by becoming invisible. Some by becoming strong. Some by becoming agreeable. Some by becoming unbreakable. Gay, straight, lesbian, trans, non-binary, male, female, different stories, but the same sacredly human question. Will I live as a reflex or as an author? Reaction says, they made me this way. Response says, I will decide who I become. Reaction says, I must stay armored. Response says, I will stay human. Reaction says, my life is a defense. Response says, my life is a responsibility. And let us be honest. In this political climate, this loud, trembling, truth-fractured moment, reaction is being sold to us as wisdom, outrage as identity, fear as loyalty, cruelty as strength, numbness as sophistication. But the actively human life refuses that bargain. It listens to the poem. It hears Rosa's trembling question. It stands before the canvas, and it says, I will not become smaller than my conscience. I will not become harder than my compassion. I will not become a weapon just to survive a war I did not choose. I choose to be awake. I choose to be accountable. I choose to be tender without being naive. I choose to be strong without becoming cruel. I choose to belong to myself so I can belong honestly to others. This is not passivity. This is resistance of the highest order. To choose response over reaction is to interrupt the inheritance of violence, to break the chain between wound and wound, to declare that trauma will not have final authorship over our character. So today, we do not only ask what happened to you, we ask the question carried by the poem, whispered in Rosa's voice, expressed in the paintings, and waiting inside every human life. What will you do with what was given to you? And if your voice trembles as you answer, it does not mean you are weak. It means you have entered the space where choice is born. It means you are still human. And in an age that profits from our division, our fear, our reflexes, to choose humanity first and remain actively human is the most radical decision of all. Amen, Amin, Shalom, Namaste, and Ashe.